Hey, hi everyone. I hope you all are doing good. It's a wonderful afternoon today. It's a bit cloudy in my area. So, what are we going to discuss in our today's session? So, in my today's session, we are going to discuss about three methods which is supported by AlignQ or our collection frameworks with respect to entity framework. I'm going to explain. Okay. So, let's start with it. Okay, so what are those three methods? The first one is ToList, the second one is AsEnumerable, and the third one is AsQueryable. Okay, so how ToList method works with Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.db set. Okay, so the moment you apply ToList method on your DB set class, okay, see in entity framework we will be having our unit of work called database context or DB context. Okay, so this is the class using which basically we establish a connection with our databases, and then we try to perform various read, write, update, delete operations using the DB set classes. That is the DB set class. Here a DB set represents it's a basically abstraction of your database table. Okay, so if I give db context dot employees, okay, it is basically employees is a table in my relational database management system. Okay, so whatever number of records I would like to insert or extract or delete, I can achieve it using simple AlignQ or entity framework provided collection based methods. Okay, now what will happen when I use ToList method? Okay, so ToList will execute the query basically, which is select star from table itself, okay, immediately, and load them into the server memory. Okay, the moment you apply ToList to your DB set class, trust me, if the table has millions or billions of records, all those records will be immediately loaded into your server memory or your computer memory, or with respect to Azure, your app service memory. And you know what are the consequences when you load unintended millions or billions of records into your computer memory. Basically your app services or your server will become slow, it and eventually it may become unresponsive also, and you will end up receiving out of memory exceptions. Okay, so I have taken an example on the db context object in entity framework. I referenced my employees table basically, or employees db set, and on that db set I called ToList. This is the bad practice. This is the bad practice basically. Okay, the moment I did this, okay, all the huge number of records entered my database now, sorry, my computer memory now on those millions or billions of records I'm applying this condition, but ideally this condition should have applied on the SQL server itself or on your database management system itself. So always remember, the moment you call ToList on your DB set class, see here, look at this small statement. It's a suicide basically. Okay, and you have allowed your QA testing team to open a critical bug on your application performance. Okay, so never make use of this method, okay, on your db set classes immediately. Okay, it will end up in overloading your server memory with lot of records. Okay, so not at all option to work with database management system using ORM library like entity framework core. Okay, this is ruled out completely. ToList. Now let's go to the AsEnumerable. Okay, how AsEnumerable works with our dbset class. One good thing is, not even good thing, a moderate thing is that it works lazily because it executes the query later, but whenever it executes, it will be a bomb basically. Okay, same like ToList. Whenever it executes, ToList immediately executes, but AsEnumerable will execute when you basically reference that query in your program. It may be in your console statement, it may be in your for each loop, okay, it may be when your action method of one of your API controller is returning the response. Whenever you reference, okay, it will be a bomb because it also does the same thing. And one more thing, one more extra cost associated is that if the source collection does not implement AsEnumerable interface, then an automatic cast will take place for that AsEnumerable type. Okay. Thankfully, DBset implements AsEnumerable interface. That's why this cast won't happen. But if the source collection doesn't support the AsEnumerable, then yeah, an AsEnumerable equivalent type or collection will be created automatically. So if it implements, then yeah, that's what AsEnumerable compatible type is returned. But query execution will not take place until and unless the LINQ is forced to execute. Okay, it will. You should make that query to be forced to execute, like using in a for each loop or in a console statement or returning a response from API. Then only it will execute. But the problem is that first it will execute the query select star from table. So basically loading all the records of your table into your server memory. That's boom, 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 exploded. If table has huge number of records. So one example I would like to show. Okay, so on DB context, I'm extracting my employees DB set, and on that I called AsEnumerable and then applied a condition. When my employee ID is 21, get only that employee's record. But this where condition is also useless here, because first it is loading everything into my server memory, then it is applying the filter or condition, then it is projecting or selecting the matched record. So AsEnumerable is best match for in-memory databases. Basically, all the data is residing in your memory, in your RAM. In such cases, AsEnumerable can be used to utilize the various methods provided by LINQ. Okay, but it is not meant for this kind of data stores like relational database management systems. Okay, so we should not make use of it with relational database management system, okay, or database tables. So that's pretty much for AsEnumerable. Again, completely ruled out option, guys, for DBMS. Don't even think of using it like this. Then comes the savior, AsQueryable, and how it works with the DB set. Let's have a look. First of all, like AsEnumerable, it works lazily. Okay, it executes the query later whenever there is a need. If source collection does not implement AsQueryable interface, then an automatic cast will take place. If it implements, then AsQueryable compatible type is returned, but query execution will not take place until and unless the LINQ is forced to execute. Okay, so let's go through an example. The db context.employee.asQueryable. This time I'm making use of AsQueryable method and then I'm applying the condition. Now how this one will work? First thing, convert the expression into TSQL, transact SQL statement, okay, with a specific provider. It may be MS SQL Server, it may be Oracle, it may be MySQL, whatever the provider it is. Automatically your entity framework will take care of constructing the transact SQL statement. So in this case, you are not immediately loading everything into your computer memory or server memory. First you construct the statement, okay, with the condition, okay, most important part, with the condition. Then query remotely and load result. See, you are sending the query to your SQL server or your database management system, and you will apply this SQL statement with the condition on that server only. So what is the output? Either you may get a record or you won't. Okay, so only one record will be returned for your specified criteria, that is in my case employee ID equal to 21. So this is why dbset also inherits iQueryable to get the efficient query. dbset class has implemented iQueryable interface and it gives AsQueryable method also for us. Okay, and that is the optimal way which entity framework makes use of in order to construct the transact SQL statements and execute the queries remotely with all the conditions included. This type is more friendly to SQL database, and that is why this type usually has higher performance. Mark the word higher performance, and it is recommended when dealing with databases. Okay, so I hope you people understood the significance of iQueryable. Okay, so whenever you are working with this is not only applicable for a C# programming language, but this is a general concept. I think almost every programming language or every provider who has provided libraries to deal with relational database management system, they will give you this kind of methods, or even the other programming language collection framework, they will usually provide equivalent methods like this: AsQueryable, AsEnumerable, ToList kind of. But always remember what is best suit for what scenario. Okay, so it happens that in most of the code reviews I have seen, okay, people in a hurry, or maybe they are not aware of the API documentation or how that API or the method works. Simply sometimes they will apply this kind of statements. Okay, not deliberately, but because of not having the knowledge or the inner working of such methods, they will simply apply this kind of statements, and they will check for a less number of records in their development or QA environments. They are happy because it works out very well. Okay, they don't see the issue, they don't see the impact it has when it reaches to the production environment, where they are basically dealing with the millions or billions of records. Okay, so they will come to know only when it reaches to their production, or when their lower environment also gets a huge number of records over some period of time. Then they will slowly start experiencing slowness in the application's functionalities. Okay, whenever you encounter or hear these kind of statements like application is performing very poor, it's very slow especially, then please introspect yourself, sit with your team. Okay, go through one by one repositories you have implemented, or a base repository you have implemented, and see if there's a magic happen in terms of these statements. Okay, if you see this or this kind of things, immediately remove them and replace it with AsQueryable. Okay, and then correct the queries basically, or the LangQ queries I can say. Okay, so this should solve almost all issues associated with the performance of your database operations that your application is doing basically. Okay, so I hope the concept is very clear now. I hope you people will apply this particular technique whenever you write any repositories or APIs for your application. Okay, it's a compulsion. Always make use of AsQueryable. Okay, it has a lot of advantages over other two implementations, and it is meant for dealing with databases. Okay, so that's it for the day. Okay, thank you for listening and have a nice day, guys. Bye.